It is Tuesday, April 28th. This is the Christian Commute. I am your host, Seth Dunn, and you are riding home with me from work. All ball games have been rained out, so here we go. Also, I'm not leaving from work. I'm leaving from the gas station, so the show might be a few minutes shorter. And you might hear me get upset about trying to pull out in traffic. Let's see. Am I going to get upset? No. No, I made it easily. I'm hungry, which means I'm hangry because it's 6:28. My schedule's a little thrown off. So, see what I'm talking about today? I don't think I'm talking about anything that's going to make me mad. So, even though I'm hangry, I don't expect to just blow a gasket and be like, well, let me tell you about these women preachers or anything like that. Okay. We'll see. I have a full show for you today. I'm going to try to do the planned show topic from last time, if I make it, which is blue Christianity. Blue Christianity. We're talking about people who are Democrats, but they say they're Christians. Not mainline Christians, evangelical Christians. Okay. I have a question in the inbox about being a part of a 1689 Baptist church. And as always, we have the Bible chapter review. If you hear some rumbling, that's me looking through my armrest junk holder for the little plastic thing that goes on my headset that makes it more comfortable in my ear. One of them is missing. I guess I'll have to fight through it. Today's scripture is from Luke chapter 12, verses 35 through 38, and we're going to get to it. But first, we're going to do an update on the Why Project. If you want to do something about the seeker-sensitive Ayatollah of rock and rolla, coffee bar goat churches, and the purple haze led by Pastor Electric Blue that pervade the Bible Belt. All right, hold on, let me speed up. I'm on the on-ramp. Somebody's going at the exact same speed as me. That math doesn't work. All right. You want to do something about that? Those churches, quote unquote churches, that are basically elevation cover concerts for 30 minutes with LED lights and haze machine, followed by a seemingly biblical sermon by some guy in a tight shirt. If you want to do something about that, donate to the Why Project. ycrosspoint.com, ynorthpoint.org, yrockbridge.com, yelevation.com. Just little websites when you meet somebody who goes to one of these rock and roll churches. Nothing wrong with rock and roll. I know it's only rock and roll, but I like it. Listen, you see, I know who's that, Rolling Stones? I know Brown Sugar. I shouldn't sing that. I think that song's about... Is that song about a prostitute or just a pretty black girl? Brown sugar. Anyway, I know them. I like rock and roll. I'm not one of these, guys who wears a button-up, short-sleeve Oxford shirt with a crew cut and says you need to go to Independent Baptist College and wear khaki pants and have a chaperone on all your dates. That's not me. I am a normal person, okay? A conservative, but not cult-like conservative or pharisaical Baptist. Because when I say rock and roll church, I'm not condemning rock and roll, okay? And you guys who listen to this show know I can't say a phrase that's in a song and not sing it. So, Keep that in mind. When you're listening to this, you're like, oh, that Pharisee, they're just having a good time and he hates them. No! First of all, I don't hate them. That's ridiculous. They are creating a product to sell to people, to get them to go and give and serve, but the product they're creating is not a biblical church. It's a multi-campus, entertainment-driven nightmare that ultimately will not be salt and light in our society. That's what I'm saying. Not condemning rock and roll. If somebody could write a good rock and roll worship song that everybody could sing, that's fun. If I strolled into church Sunday, and I don't know if our piano player could keep up with this one, and I started singing, I was blinded by the devil, born already ruined, stone cold dead as I walked out of the womb. By the face I haven't saved. I know all the words. By his hand I have been healed. By his hand I've been delivered. By his spirit I've been sealed. I've been saved. That's the guitar. By the blood of the Lamb. I like that song. Bob Dylan wrote it. Okay, that's fine. Pressing on to the higher calling of my Lord. Many try and stop me, shake me up in my mind. Say, prove to me that he is Lord. Show me a sign. What kind of sign you need when it all comes from within? I mean, it doesn't have to be on a hymn book for me to like it. Okay, there's bad songs and hymns too. All right, there's heretics who wrote hymns. But I tell you what, just repackaging the worst of the worst. Elevation, Andy Stanley, Hillsong, drilling it into low discernment people who want to be entertained. Church becomes a Thursday night thing because now Sundays are for the second half of the travel ball tournament. Okay? Y'all know that's where it is. Y'all know, listen, you see your grandkids going there, old people. Let me address the old ladies who listen to this show. That's who likes this show. Old ladies and truck drivers. All right? If I had sponsorship like commercials, it would sell headsets. What do truck drivers like? Wireless headsets because they're always driving around. Slim Jims, they can snack on them. Ooh, yeah, snap into a Slim Jim. I don't have time. I'm a truck driver. I don't always have time to stop and sit down and eat. When I've got to get my load there on time, because it's going to cost the company money if I don't, I keep a sack of Slim Jims in my passenger seat. That provides the protein and energy I need to drive 13 hours a day, along with the little Yellow Jacket energy drink and pills that I got from the gas station. I don't think you can do that anymore. They have something called e-logs. But that's who would sponsor it. What do old ladies like? What are they? Coldwater Creek clothes. This episode of The Christian Commute brought to you by Coldwater Creek. Hey, those clothes look like they're for a younger woman, but they're not. They're for Coldwater Creek. I mean, that's who listens to this show. All right? By and large, how do I know that's who writes me? You guys have seen your children and grandchildren grow up in church, and then maybe they get wayward. They get married and they go back to church, but they don't come back to your church. They go to seeker-sensitive rock and roll Ayatollah of rock and roll Goat Church in the Purple Haze. They go to Coffee Bar Goat Church, and you think, well, I'm just happy they go there. I'm just happy they go to church. Yeah, but they rejected the church you raised them in to go to this alternative thing. Okay? They took the Pepsi challenge and they're never drinking Coke again. Okay? Well, I'm just happy they go to church. They're boiling frogs over there. They're boiling frogs over there. Do you think your grandchildren are going to vote like you? Do you think your grandchildren are going to be able to give a defense for their faith when all they know is a bunch of happy, clappy Hillsong stuff? All right? That's what I'm saying. It's going to fundamentally change society. That's why these websites exist. So you can show your kids and friends who have a lick of sense and say, hey, I know you really like this. Check out these sermon reviews. Check out like what this guy is saying. You know, maybe he's right. Just it doesn't hurt to check it out. So that's why the Y Project exists, and you can give to it. So I can keep funding those websites. Again, that is on PayPal, on Venmo, or send me a check in the mail like it's 1999. That's Prince. Prince is vulgar. If I know a Prince song, you know I can't hate rock and roll. It's been 7 hours and 15 days since you took your love away from me. You say, the Sinead O'Connor, she sang it. Prince wrote it. Prince wrote Nothing Compares to You. Little red Corvette. Oh, how I would like to have a little red Corvette on the Christian Commute. Wouldn't that be nice? Instead of a crappy old Kia Soul. And that's what keeps the Christian Commute going. I'm driving my old Kia Soul. Got the leak fixed so I can drive it on a rainy day like this. All right, for that long infomercial and lots of songs. Luke chapter 12, verses 35 through 38. Be dressed in readiness and keep your lamps lit. Be like the men who are waiting for their master when he returns from the wedding feast, so that they immediately open the door to him when he comes and knocks. Blessed are those slaves whom the master will find on the alert when he comes. Truly I say to you that he will gird himself to serve and have them recline at the table and will come up and wait on them. Whether he comes in the second watch or evening, the third, or even the third, and finds them so. Blessed are those slaves. What's Jesus talking about? He's saying, be ready. Be ready for his return. By the way, he's the one who's coming back. All right. When he returns. That's a Bob Dylan song. I can't remember words as much anymore because I'm 44. I can't remember people's names. Oh, when he returns. Right? When he returns. Okay. Jesus is coming back. So think about the people before. They're all caught up with the worries of the world, and they got to have 3 different barns and 3 suits of clothes, and they're hoarding and they're not giving anything. Okay? They're uncharitable people concerned with money. They're not storing up treasures in heaven. And since they're so earthly minded, they don't have their mind, they don't have their life dedicated to serving the Lord. They're not ready for him to come back. So Jesus talks about the master of a house who's gone away to a wedding feast. He's going to come back. It's going to be late. You don't know how long he's going to be back. Maybe it's this great wedding, and all his friends and family are there, and the food is really good, so he doesn't want to leave. It's a celebration. All right. I've never been to a wedding and be like, all right, it's time to get out of here. I love going to weddings because I'm there with a bunch of people I love. Like all my cousins are there. Why would I want to leave? It's sad to leave. Okay. So the master's out on a wedding feast, and he's going to come home, and he's going to be ready. He wants to be attended by his servants. I'm going to this wedding feast. I don't know when I'm coming back. Guys, be ready. Okay. If the servants are asleep and sitting around doing nothing when he comes home, and they're not ready to attend to him after his long journey, he's going to be mad. Those are worthless servants. They're not in readiness. Keep your lamps lit. So remember, they can't just flick lights on. All right? It's pitch dark. So he's getting home. They need to have their lamps lit to have a nice, well-lit place in the house to receive the master. But what Jesus says here is the master's going to come and serve them. He's going to be so pleased with them. He's going to have them recline. Say, all right, you guys, let me give you something to eat. You've been waiting patiently for me. You've been faithful for me. You've been up at the second and third watch. We don't know when the master is going to return. The point here is to be in a state of readiness. There'll be no peace, and the wars won't cease until he returns. There, I'm starting to remember the lines. Listen, because I don't listen to the music anymore. I used to drive around listening to music. I knew all the words, but now I podcast. Okay. Now, hold on now. I'm transitioning. There's a state trooper. This means everybody slows down to below the speed limit. And he's passing me on the far right. This is going to be interesting. I'm going to watch the Red Sea part to the right as he goes by, everybody. All right. Let's go to the inbox. This question is from Claudia in Chattanooga. Is it Claudia in Chattanooga? I think it is. It's Claudia or Lauren? Laura. Why do I feel like I'm getting that name wrong? Because I'm old and I can't remember. But this person from Chattanooga writes me regularly. And it's one of these personal questions. It's not about apologetics. It doesn't require any special insight, but I'm going to answer it anyway because I don't have anything else to talk about. What do you appreciate about being a member of a 1689 church? And have you been met with any criticism since leaving the main line? All right, now let me point something out. I've never left the main line because I've never been in it. I think what you mean is mainstream. So in evangelical world or Southern Baptist world, the mainstream would be these 3-point Calvinist type churches. All right, sort of right there in that middle. XYZ Baptist Church, right? Or First Baptist Church of Town XYZ. I think that's what you mean. I think you mean mainstream. Because the main line refers to non-evangelical churches, waspy churches, like the Anglican Church, the United Methodist Church, these old historical Episcopal top-down type denominations. That's the main line. And they've largely apostatized. United Methodist Church, Presbyterian Church, USA, Anglican Communion. That's the main line. I've never been a part of that. I think you mean mainstream. Okay. And, I mean, no, I haven't got any criticism. Are you asking me if the people at the 1689 church have criticized me for mowing my yard on Sunday or something like that? I'm joking around. No, they haven't. Wouldn't tell them if I did, but no, I haven't. I haven't received any internal criticism from them saying, "Oh, you're coming with this mainstream attitude of this, that, or the other." You know, this idea that you have doesn't work here. I haven't really had any kind of criticism like that. No. If you're talking about external criticism, I mean, my parents. Because it's like, you know, I'm just talking about parents who don't want their kids to go to goat church. My parents are like, well, your church isn't very big. You know, there's not anything for the kids. And that doesn't have anything to do with it being a 1689 church. That has to do with being a small church. Now, where I live, the 1689 church is going to be small. But it doesn't have to be. There are sizable 1689 churches. Just not where I live. So that's more of a criticism of going to a really small church. It doesn't have anything to do with it being 1689, even though its size is going to be limited because of it being 1689. But no, and I haven't really experienced anything negative because of that. At least, you know, not from outside people who are saying, "Oh, you've done this," you know, not from my podcast listeners or anything, or not from people in town. And you know, you meet people sometimes, especially, I think this happens more online than in person. Somebody's like, "You go to one of those Calvinist churches, and God's not a Calvinist. A predestination is what the Muslims believe." And I haven't really ran into that. What do I appreciate about being a member of a 1689 church? We're not wishy-washy on doctrine. Nobody really shows up with strange church growth ideas or something like that. You know, it's just, it sort of is what it is. I like, and let me pause here for a moment. All 1689 Baptist churches are Baptist, but not all Baptist churches are 1689. But we can't just delineate between, say, a Southern Baptist church and a 1689 church. You can't say, well, what's the difference? You know, Pine Grove is Southern Baptist. Rolling Springs, the demonic Church of Freemasonry, is Southern Baptist. First Baptist of Cartersville is Southern Baptist. Tabernacle is Southern Baptist. Grace Baptist is Southern Baptist. You know, you can just go through, I can name a bunch of Southern Baptist churches. Friendship Baptist is Southern Baptist. Atco is Southern Baptist. But your 1689 church is not Southern Baptist. Well, it could be. There's lots of 1689 Baptist churches that are also Southern Baptist. Go to the Founders website, Founders Ministries. There's a bunch of them. I mean, we're using Founders literature right now, their modern English update of the 1689 for our Sunday school book. So you can't really say when you leave SBC world, you go into 1689 world. That's not accurate. That's, you know, if my church wanted to be wanted to join the Southern Baptist Convention because the pastor needed health insurance through Guidestone, I don't have any problem with that. As long as we weren't sending them cooperative program money, that'd be fine. Because there's little benefits to that. You know, that's okay with me. He doesn't need to because he has a good job. But just making a point. Pappy's just making a point. There's a movie reference. See, I watch the secular movies. My daughters aren't wearing culottes down at the IFB church. So one of the things I like about it is the regulative principle, right? We have an order of worship. It doesn't mean every sermon is good, or it doesn't mean nobody ever says anything bad that has to be corrected. You know, that goes for any church. What I'm saying is, when you go to a 1689 church, there's an order of worship based in the regulative principle. And one thing, we're not going to, here's something stupid that happens at SBC churches. They show you some little video to make you emotional. All the time this happens. It happens on Father's Day, Mother's Day, Annie Armstrong Day, Lottie Moon Day. Like, there's no stupid little videos. It's like, we're going to read the Old Testament, we're going to sing, and then we're going to preach, and then we're going to sing again. That's what happens. I like the uniformity and the regulative principle. And here, it's sort of funny. Like, where does it say in the 1689 confession that we're not supposed to sing Hillsong? Well, it doesn't say that anywhere. Hillsong didn't exist in 1689. But Hillsong and Elevation would never come through in my church. We have the celebration hymnal. We have what is the hymns of grace, and we have a Psalter hymnal now. I don't know if we've used it yet, but we have it. So it doesn't ever say in the 1689, well, you got to sing these hymns, you got to have this style. It doesn't say that. But the 1689 people who are a part of 1689 church just naturally reject that ARC, Goat Church, Craig Rochelle, Stephen Furtick stuff. I never have to worry when we're thinking about what is our Bible study going to be on Wednesday nights. Somebody says, I've got this great book from Craig Rochelle or Stephen Furtick. It just wouldn't happen. Nobody's going to walk in suggesting that. And the reason is, when you join a 1699 church, you read the confession, you guys say, well, we really believe this. You really believe something. What's the old saying? If you don't believe something, you'll fall for anything. Well, churches who are, you know, your typical Southern Baptist church is full of people who fall for anything. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I guess I can, like 5, 4, it's not like a million, that I would go into First Baptist Church on the first Wednesday of the Wednesday night semester where they're resetting the Bible studies, and I'd look at the offerings and be like Tony Evans and Priscilla Shirer or something like that. You're not going to have a Tony Evans study or a Priscilla Shirer study at a 1689. You're just not. And again, that's not because it says that's not going to happen in the 1689. Well, we just have enough sense not to do that. It doesn't mean we're insulated from problems. Man, we still have problems. We can still, it could be anything. People come with their own types of problems, right? And there's a certain type of person at a certain stage in life in our culture right now, and by stage of life, I mean stage in their spiritual life, who would be more attracted to a 1689 church. And they might have their own hang-ups that we'd have to deal with, okay? But as far as what do I appreciate, all the stuff that just makes my stomach turn, I don't have to deal with it. Like I was talking about when I went to my mother-in-law's church at Easter. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, this is stupid. These songs are stupid. Playing North Point and Hillsong. I can't stand this man up there in his jeans and tennis shoes busting out North Point like he's worshiping God when he's making a mockery out of this. I can't stand this. This sermon is terrible. And by the way, that's a function of a small church. Like, if you walk into a bigger Southern Baptist church, you're usually going to get a good sermon. You have a seminary-trained guy adhering to the Bible. But terrible from a standpoint of, what are you talking about? We're not insulated from bad sermons at 1689. But we're not going to have, how about this? We're not going to have a sermon that's geared toward, all right, this is how we're going to grow the church through felt needs. Here's the thing, like my church is going to be like, here's a sermon series. It's John, and we're going through John. Like last week, we talked about the man that Jesus healed, the blind man. He said, I was blind. Oh, I know I was blind, and now I see. And the Jews are interrogating him, like, how dare you think this guy's a prophet? Just talk to your parents. And when we're done with that, we're just going to move on to whatever's next in John. Okay. Does that mean everything's going to be a Dave Metzler 5-star sermon? No. But everything that's said is going to be for the purpose of teaching me the Bible, and it's going to line up. And if something doesn't, I can just go and say, I don't think this does. And they'll be like, oh yeah, you're right. Or no, I think it does. You're right. You're wrong. And it's not going to be like, all right, how are we going to all get 50 people in? I don't know how else to say. I like going to Sunday school and going to sit in church and not being infuriated by how idiotic it is. All right? And not being sad and frustrated by being surrounded by a bunch of people on the pew who don't have the discernment to know that there's a problem or are too apathetic to do anything about it. I mean, there's people who believe like me in all the churches in town, but they're not going to get up and leave and say, enough, I can't take this anymore. I'm going to go over here. They're just going to put up with it. I like that I don't have a lot to put up with. It is refreshing to be around people who believe like you. And you say, well, wait a minute, Seth, don't all the people at First Baptist believe like you? I mean, or Tabernacle or Rolling Springs or where? Yeah, to a point. To a broad point, yes. When you whittle it down, no. And it's really good. If I ever get frustrated at church, I'm like, oh, I don't like this, or I don't like that. We need to change this. All I gotta do, go on a little vacation to my mother-in-law's house and be like, whew, I wish I was at my church right now. Whatever little problem I had pales in comparison to what's going on now. It's the difference. I'll give you a good example. The difference of making the Y Project website and saying, here's ycrosspoint.com, and just from the bottom of my heart, I'm distraught that my friends and neighbors think this is a good church. And I want people to have informed consent and think their way out of this. So I'm going to make a website, even though I know some people don't like it and they're going to look at me funny. I'm going to make this website. I don't have any malice in my heart about it. Okay, if there was malice in my heart, it would be sinful. I don't have any malice in my heart about this. Just concern for my neighbor, and what goes on here is awful, and I'm going to make a website. And the difference is, at a 1689 church, it's like, yeah, you're right. Good job. And at the mainstream church is like, well, you understand how bad this looks for us. Well, why would you do this, Seth? Well, do you disagree with me? Well, I don't know anything about it. Well, I do. I did the research. Why don't you go there? Well, I wouldn't want to go there. I know. Why not? Because it's terrible? You just don't want to admit it. Part of that's about being in the South. Well, bless their hearts. Let's pray for them. Now, it's not actually try to help them. Just ignore it. Right? But, I like to be able to post on Facebook, the Pope is as awful and preaches a false gospel, and don't hear from somebody, well, how, it's really going to hurt. It's really going to hurt your ability to invite people to church if you talk like that. You know what I mean? And it's weird. It's like there's these people who believe these articles in this document that a bunch of Baptists wrote 400 years ago or 350 years ago about justification and glorification and the church, just these abstract doctrines. And then you look at the things that plague the modern evangelical church and they reject them because they're focused on what the Bible says. So that's what I appreciate. And you see, it's what I haven't said is I appreciate the doctrine, because I haven't. Well, don't you appreciate the doctrine? All right, believe the doctrine. Just believe what the Bible says. It's not being around a doctrinal people. Because if you go to a church, and it could be any church, it could be a different confession. It doesn't have to be 1689. It could be any of them, right? That has a very detailed or long or stringent confession. There's not going to be so many a-doctrinal people. It's like you feel like you're fighting a war with people who believe in a cause, not people who are just going to desert the army. You know what I mean? Like, your co-belligerents are true believers, true patriots, if you will. I don't think anybody's at my church for the social benefit. Okay? I like that. Because if you're at a church and people are there for the social benefit, and you say, for example, hey, got a bunch of Freemasons in this church, and I don't want to end up like the people from the book of Joshua when they sack Ai and lose the battle because there's unholiness among them. We got to do something about cleaning up our house. And the people who are at church for socialization says, oh, no. That will upset our social status quo. Everybody won't be as friendly. We might leave. We might have to have an uncomfortable conversation. We might lose somebody. Yeah, but I'm worried about the spiritual health of our church, and I'm worried about their souls. I'm trying to do what the Bible says. Oh, we can't do that. Now, 1689 Baptist Confession, I'm not even sure if they had the Masonic Lodge in 1689. I don't think they did. But hold on, it's ancient. It's from Adam. No, okay. But it doesn't say no Masons in membership. But the kind of person like my pastor, who's a 1689 pastor, I don't have to ask him, are there any Masons here? What would you do if he just would reject them. There's a type of person who's doctrinal, who'd say, sorry, can't have that here. Actually, we're not sorry. We're not making apologies for the Bible. You can't have that here. My wife tells me, she's like, you'll find something, Seth. You always find something. I'm like, yeah, I'll find several things. You could put me alone in a white room locked in a straitjacket, and I'd find something's wrong with this room. See that? There's a spider on the wall. The wall's supposed to be white, and that black spider's throwing it off. You know, I'd find something little, all right? My wife's right in a sense, like, I would. But the thing to find is like, okay, well, nobody's perfect. I just have to get over that. Nope, you know, we got this little quirk of our church or this person. Like, all right. Well, it's different than some guy telling me that there's no such thing as the general resurrection. I mean, that's another Wednesday night thing. I can remember being in a Wednesday night at First Baptist and being in a Revelation study and some woman teaching men. That's a whole other thing with, you know, her PowerPoint slides about Apache helicopters being attack grasshoppers from Revelation. And then talking to this guy who's like, oh, I don't buy it all either. And then you talk to him more, it's like, there is no general resurrection. It's like, oh my gosh. They let you teach Sunday school here. You shouldn't even be a member of a New Testament church. You know, that guy would not be a member at the 1689 church. He'd last for about 2 weeks. He'd start talking that stuff, because it happens at small churches. You get people come in with these odd doctrines. He'd start talking that stuff, and they'd say, hey, brother, you're not, you know, you need to repent of your false doctrine. It's not going to work out for you here. Might not even see, hey, brother. Could be like, hey, apostate, it might not work out for you. So my wife is right. Frustrating things that frustrate me will never, ever go away. No church is perfect, and I will, whatever organization, group, or project I'm a part of, I will find the little thing, because it's just me that ain't right about it. But maybe, you know, maybe it's because I'm older now. I don't have to crusade about this. I don't have to crusade about Masons because they're not there. And if there's some other little thing that comes up at my church, and I mean, you can tell there's things, but I'm not going to sit here and say what they are. It's nobody's business. But my local church would be like, I can deal with this. And if it doesn't get resolved the way I want, like, I'll just accept it. It's not a hill to die on. You talk about the hills to die on. And I think, as I ramble through, Claudia, let's get to this. I'm not going to make the Blue Christianity show topic because I talked about this for so long. And you know what? The inbox says this is a better question for discussion than the question in the inbox. I guess I just went on and on. Sorry to make the show all about me again. Hills to die on. I remember being at Rolling Springs Baptist Church, the demonic church of Freemasonry, being in the little church library, meeting with the pastor and deacons after I'd brought up the Freemason issue. And the pastor said, this is not a hill to die on. Number one problem is that you get killed on that hill. Like you would lose the battle. When somebody says it's not a hill to die on, you think they're saying it's not it's not important or it's not worth the fight, sometimes they're saying, I'm not going to win that fight. So let's say, let me just give you an example. Let's say someone, I'm trying to think of something. Let's say you have a contract with a builder and he doesn't do right and he's in violation of the contract and he causes you $8,000 worth of damage. And you go to a lawyer and you say, this guy's caused me $8,000 worth of damage. The lawyer might say, all right, it's going to cost you $5,000 to get a retainer with me and another $5,000 in court costs to get to this to win your $8,000. So you got to spend $10,000 to win $8,000. You want to do it? No, not a hill to die on. Even if I win the fight, it's not worth it. But I think there's another aspect of hill to die on, like, hey, we need to win this battle, and to win this battle, we got to charge up that hill. You know, we're at Gettysburg, and we got to make Pickett's charge. You're like, well, we're going to lose if we do that. You know, I'm not going to do it. If the cause of the Confederacy and the Yankee taking our land is worth it, you know, if the cause is worth it, you're gonna charge that machine gun nest. You're gonna try to win. Because the alternative is living in tyranny. So when you say, in just example, Pastor Joe Ringwalt, of your 25 years of service, which you got because you don't rock the boat. Don't rock the boat, baby. Rock the boat. Don't rock the boat, baby. Because you don't want to rock the boat. This is not a hill to die on. What you really mean is, you're okay not fighting the battle and living within the unholy state that is your church. And you're recognizing, because you know, you've been there 25 years, you know that you'll lose the battle. We're going to die on this hill. We're not healthy enough to overcome this. Like when I was at Expedition Church and the pastor played Star Wars during the sermon. I never can keep a straight face when I say it. When Tim Samples thought, let me preach from Revenge of the Sith here. And thinking, who am I going to bring this up to? If people aren't getting up and walking out the door, what am I going to say? Who's going to side with me? People with the discernment of children. I mean, it's not that I'm right in this fight. It's just like the people aren't going to get it. I feel like the hills to die on at a 1689 church, like I'm aligned with the other people. Like I'm aligned with the pastor and the other people. Like these are doctrinal matters that we will not compromise on. And if it means we'll never grow beyond 25 people at this church, that's fine. We will not compromise. Like, we will not bow. Though you throw us in the fiery furnace, even if God doesn't save us, we will not bow. Right? Is that Nebuchadnezzar? King of Babylon? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? You know, we will not bow. It might be one of the other ones. I went to a seminary. I have a degree. We will not bow. The hills to die on, we're going to die on them. So number one, if somebody joined our church and it turned out that he was a Freemason, even if it's 5 people and they all gave $1 million, you'd be like, guys, you can't be a Freemason and be a member here. We're going to fight the battle. And if we die, we die. So that's that. I'm sorry it took me 45 minutes to get to this answer, Claudia. But what I appreciate most about being at a 1689 church is about being around other people who will die on the same biblical hills that I will. It's not full of weaselly, mealy-mouthed pragmatists. So That's what I like. And if somebody wants to criticize me because we don't have a youth program, well, maybe I wouldn't roll across the street to hear your youth preacher and his purple lights. Thanks for listening to the Christian Commute. Lord willing, I'll be back with you again. We'll say Friday. Maybe we'll finally get to the follow-up topic of blue Christianity. So Lord willing, I'll be back. Lord willing, 7:12. Lord willing, somebody left me some dinner and I'm not going to go hungry. As always, God bless. And as always, remember, Christianity is not about getting saved. It's about being saved.